Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to latest episode of Partner First here at OITVOIP, where we bring thought leaders, channel vendors with amazing information to share, and we bring it along to you, our favored OIT family. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by none other than Brian Doty of Unitrends MSP. He is the channel development manager. He's going to be joining us today talking about how to fight back, how to not let those malicious actors, not let those threat actors that just keep knocking on our door nonstop. What can we do to shore up our defenses? So as always, this is recorded. This will be available on YouTube and Facebook immediately after the webinar. Make sure you give us your comments and your questions. This is live interaction. This is not going to be death by PowerPoint. This is absolutely going to be a conversation with our closest family and friends. So without much further ado, let's welcome up Mr. Brian Doty. How you doing, man?
Doing great, Ray. Thanks for having me here today.
Absolutely. No, thank you. And I appreciate it. Every once in a while we have people that are not only just sitting in their offices ready to do these streams, but ones who do it despite some challenges and fighting uphill. You were doing this from the road, from an event, Robin Robbins, right?
Yep. Rapid implementation workshop here in Franklin, Tennessee.
Nice. And I hope you get a chance to at least get some whiskey or some moonshine in your downtime. So
yeah, I've been known to have an adult beverage or two while I'm down here.
Nice. One of our staff members moved up to Tennessee, so on her trip back down, she brought us a raspberry. It was like a blue raspberry moonshine. I never had that before. I'm used to the silver lightning stuff, and we enjoyed that last night. It was actually pretty good. But that's not where we're here. Either way, I appreciate you, even from the road, finding a safe place to do this webinar with us today. So thank you, sir. So why don't you tell us about your role at Unitrends MSP? I'm sure all of us have heard what Unitrends MSP is, but bring everybody up to date just in case they haven't, and what you do there.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm Brian Doty. I'm the channel development manager here at Unitrends MSP, and people don't always understand channel development manager. What the heck is that? What's a title, right? But I'm here to evangelize the MSP community on best practices around their backup, their business continuity and disaster recovery strategy. A lot about documenting things, but of course, my role is sales and marketing and getting out and doing the events and stuff like that. So it's awesome to get opportunities to talk to MSPs about the challenges they face. I worked in the MSP community for a while. I worked for Continuum prior to that. So I've been in the channel for a little while, and I love doing this. It's great times.
And that's always appreciated, right? Not just somebody, oh yeah, I sold real estate, and now I'm in the MSP space. So, so having some background, that's always favored. And we already see in the chat, you have a fan and one of our favorite people, Miles Walker, saying Brian can do it all. Conference check, amazing chat check. He's good. He's covered. We were talking about even with the lack of multiple screens, and Mr. Sanders, I will text you later. He needs equipment. He needs an extra screen to be able to do this from the road. But again, we appreciate you. So without much further ado, let's go ahead and you have a presentation you want to go through.
Yeah, Simon's going to be helping us out.
Yeah. The Simon who always keeps things flowing smoothly, which we appreciate.
That's right.
So not if, but when. Talk to me. What am I looking at here?
So this is a statement about the fact that, vendors in the channel, we live in glass houses, and, we're doing everything we can to protect our partners, our customers, your clients, MSP's clients against these threats. And, aside from all the technology that we throw at things, we're only one keystroke away from making that mistake that costs us, right? Costs us dearly. So when I say it's not if, but when, I'm talking about ransomware, data loss in general. Human error is the cause most of the time of these issues. And, so I like for MSPs to be prepared. and it's something I learned in Cub Scouts when I was a kid, but it's something that I've carried with me through. And I think that we've got a lot to offer in that way, in the way of being prepared and making sure that you're looking out for your client's best interests. So we definitely, we think of it as, it's not if an attack happens, it's when an attack happens. What are you going to do, right?
And that's the thing we try to tell our clients. We try to, I remember in the MSP days, like that was the constant battle with the clients. Oh, we're too small. We're not going to get attacked. We're not a target, blah, blah. Or, for the clients, oh, but we have antivirus, so we should never get attacked. It's not a big
Right.
deal. And I'm like, having locks on your door doesn't stop somebody from breaking in. It just makes it a little more difficult. You have to plan for the inevitable. Somebody's going to break in at some point.
Exactly.
Which is why those, it kills me in the security space to hear people, oh, well, what tools are you using? Because this tool is going to solve all my problems. It's a layered approach. And I was also a fellow scout, and is a layers approach, but also it's the, when stuff goes sideways, what's your plan? What's your DR plan to get back up and running? And that's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and Simon, if you can click onto the next one, this is kind of a joke, but it really happened. So this is a province in northern Canada, or in British Columbia. And basically a beaver ate through their fiber optic line, providing, internet services to this entire town. Luckily, it was a small town, but I think it speaks to the idea about being prepared, because who has something like this in their DR plan for themselves or for their clients? Like, who thinks, like, okay, well, we could have a beaver who's trying to build their dam today, and oh, look at that, it ate through the internet connection.
As if the fiber seeking backhoes weren't the scariest thing already for any ISP or for anybody you're relying on internet. Now we have to worry about Mother Nature and her, her damned beavers.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And look, nobody would think of that. Nobody would think of that. But like today,
are we going to see a Unitrends MSP, like, bury the beaver BCDR? Like, I feel there's a marketing opportunity here. I'm just saying.
There are quite a few. I was warned a couple of times when we were starting to talk about this story that it could really go sideways and cause us some potential HR issues even.
Oh yeah. I can only imagine.
Yeah,
I can only imagine. But that's awesome. That's a new one. We're gonna hold on to that, because that's I love that.
But look,
so before we go on, those of you in the chat, because I see there's quite a few of you in the chat, tell us share some stories as to what your what crazy incident, what was the craziest incident that you experienced that brought you downtime? And whether it's lightning strike, I've seen bees, I've seen whatever craziness happened, and we will have Simon give away one of our, it's always DNS mouse pads. We'll give away 2 for the best 2 comments, Simon, from our shop, because I always love hearing these horror stories.
Yes.
And it's always DNS, even when it's not, right?
It is always DNS. I gotta find me one of those mouse pads. They look really cool.
Oh, we'll take care of you, man. We got you. we were told, actually, it might have been Miles that said it. We were told we have the best swag in the industry. So
I think you do. I think
stuff,
you do,
including Cloudy.
Yes, Cloudy McCloud.
All right. So what do we got up next?
So, Simon, if you can go, okay, you got us there. So look, a lot of what brought us to that, to where we're relying on those connections, right? And that beaver eating through the line. Well, the pandemic, it pushed a lot of people to work from home. And now we're relying on those sorts of things, that home internet connection, that home firewall. But that shift to these SaaS platforms, and when I say SaaS platform, I'm talking about Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace. They were adding millions of users every single month throughout the pandemic. And Microsoft was very specific. They were adding 3 to 4 million. Google was a little harder to kind of decipher, what they were saying as far as added seats. But I want to say that in 2020, they saw like a 47% increase in cloud services. So I guess you can kind of gauge it that way. But the point is, massive shift into these platforms. And we all have these late adopters, right? We're like, no, my on-prem server that's 10
I need
years
to be
out
able
of
to
date.
see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see it. It's there.
How does your bank account work? If like you're saying you need to be able to see. No, and I think what the crazy part for me was, we saw this, and I don't want to say we're in post-pandemic because obviously the numbers are still there, but people's in different areas, different markets have seemed to kind of normalize a little bit. But we expected, or a lot of people expected, the work from home to go back to normal, back to the office.
Right.
And there's no signs of that. There's really, instead, the workplace is just adapting and saying, okay, well, this work from anywhere strategy is going to be here to stay, which for all the long time, prognosticians have been saying forever. Yeah, no, work from anywhere is going to be the thing, right? And HP's failed, whatever, Marissa Myers, that's a whole other animal. But like, they went home and came back. But seeing it now, I mean, at least our company's fully distributed. I mean, the only two people who go to my office today are my daughter and her boyfriend, which now in second thought, maybe that's not the best idea. But we go to pick up mail, So, but yeah, these numbers, they don't look like they're going back down, which is crazy.
No, I don't anticipate that. And especially, once you decide to shift that workload off to the cloud, to AWS or Azure, it's not necessarily coming back. I'm sure there's some specific cases out there where that's happened, but generally speaking, I don't see people coming back on-prem with things anytime soon. And if anything, it was those late adopters. This kind of shoved them off the cliff, right? It said, hey, now or never. If you want to work remotely, or even in this hybrid world we're in now, you're going to have to make that change. So we saw a huge shift. And Simon, can you click into the next one for me there? And like, this is why I talk about the SaaS platforms, because the data that's in them now, well, what was it before? Well, it used to be like on a file server on-prem that people would share their documents and things, and that contained the PII, PHI. That was the information that was very sensitive, right? Now it sits in OneDrive and Google Workspace. And what we're hearing from companies is that, at least 3/4 of businesses are saying that, hey, we've lost data, and we continue to lose data in these platforms for a variety of reasons. But the leading reason is human error, right? I accidentally deleted it. I overwrote it. That kind of stuff.
Well, we just saw that, right? I mean, sometimes bury the beaver is bury the guy in IT or whoever it happens to be. I'm not going to let the beaver thing go. I'm going to go as far as I can without crossing lines.
Right.
But
please.
Yeah, but no, I'm not going to get anybody in trouble. This is the professional podcast. So
send them my way, because however I could use that,
Yeah, but but here we have, Matt brings up a good point. Facebook's issue that just happened was human error. It wasn't some malicious actor. It wasn't, sometimes the problems that occur are from internal. And we have to protect against that too. How easy is it to delete a folder on SharePoint or a folder in OneDrive that you had shared? I mean, we have that all the time. It's a matter of fact.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's additional tickets for MSPs, and we're saying like, maybe you could go in and restore it yourself, and that's not always the easiest thing to deal with. And look, it's another service you got to log into, another platform you got to log into. So, but I don't know that all MSPs have that figured out at this point for their clients. And so,
and you want to make sure you're safeguarding the really important data, right? Like for me, my pictures are my lifeblood, right? And I have some pictures like this one, for example, where, where like it would really hurt me if this picture disappeared. Sean says hi, by the way. So this was a picture taken. You want to give us the background on this, Brian?
So at the ASCII events, I believe this was ASCII Chicago over the summer. So I was just updating my headshot, and so I think I want to say it's Josh Lieberman who's there, updating headshots. He's a photographer. Did a great job making this face for the radio look good. But then all of a sudden, Sean comes in and photo bombs me. It was great. It's great.
I think that's a very handsome looking photo. There you go. He's a good looking couple. But Sean, we're not here to see you or Brian's good looks. We're here to see protecting our good pictures and important files from Barry the Beaver, who has now been named. So.
Oh, it's hysterical. And it's always good laughs. Yeah, Sean's a good time at those events for sure. But look, what we're talking about, the human error element, all of those things, when you stack that up against the spike we've seen in ransomware and cyber attacks, Sean's cracking me up here today.
I mean, it's saved in the chat anyway after the video, so
it's forever etched in my memory now. But look, I mean, I think we're all aware, unless you're an MSP who's been living under a rock, you're probably aware, at least generically speaking, about the spike that we've seen during the pandemic. Cyber criminals using sort of the latest COVID statistics to phish people, and there's been an obvious increase in there, and I don't see that slowing down. There are some statistics out there that are indicating that some certain types of attacks are going down percentage wise, but really ransomware continues to thrive and do well. So if you were looking for a new business model, I don't know, maybe not that direction anyway, but protecting against it is certainly important. And I think what we're seeing, it's just going to continue to go this way until enough people are aware and enough people are trained to see what's going on, what to look out for. I know I almost fall for these things from time to time, where they use those special characters in an email address or something, and things don't look right. I certainly see questionable stuff every day.
There's a name for that, right? When they, they'll take like briandoty.com and they'll put like a 1 instead or an L instead of the I, right? And that happens all the time, to the point like good friend Kelvin Teller from Cyber Drain Networks. He has his scripts up. He has a script specifically to go through 365 and check for those. Somebody's going to correct me in the chat, I guarantee you. But to check for those things where it's ambiguous letters, which I thought was pretty brilliant. But these guys are getting, as we're trying to train up our users, which is a very key component of providing good IT service delivery, because it saves them headache and you headache. But the threat actors are getting smarter and smarter too, which is terrifying.
Their book.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail you there.
It's all good. Their book of tricks seems to constantly evolve, and it's one of those things that like you were saying, we're training users. I think we're probably behind there, right? Not everybody is into this stuff as much as we are and pays attention to it as much as
I don't know what you're talking about. Everybody is reading every single manual every day. I got to call you BS there. I can't see.
What, you don't think people read the EULA? I think I have that slide.
Right? It's like sometimes you want to tattoo RTFM on their on their foreheads or something. Yeah, but and even though like the FBI, and this is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, people, I hope you guys are like, if you haven't seen the 14,000 social media posts from every single one of us vendors out there, but this is a good opportunity to show your clients you're on top of things, right? Which is why it's not just about the tools also, but showing them this exact data to say, look, the FBI is on top of it. We know what's going on. We're watching what's going on as much as humanly possible. It's not just we're trying to prevent it. We're keeping abreast of current events and trying to read the tea leaves into the future to better protect your clients. Those are the MSPs that are the most successful, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and this is, something we all saw, right? We were all, I think, in some way or another, we were all affected by both of these major attacks. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, so if you don't get that it can affect your business directly, where you're the one being hit by the ransomware or by the data loss event, whatever it is, um, it could be something in your supply chain that you have no control over. And I think we all saw it with these two attacks specifically. All right, you can go to the next one, Simon. We can. All right, and I already talked about this too, about how many people were being phished in 2020, and the fact that these are looking more and more realistic. There's a couple of examples on the screen here. Wells Fargo was another one of those impersonated brands. We talk about that a lot too, where there's these impersonated brands that it just looks so legitimate when you get that email that you think like, no, there's no way this is fit. This looks really legit. They always misspell words or have bad English or
Yeah.
the graphics look fun.
There's some, you get some where you're like, they weren't even trying. And then you get some where you're like, I'm sitting there and I'm like mousing over the links. I'm throwing it into a sandbox. Like I'm like, there's some times where they're so legit, or even the legit ones, you can't tell anymore. Right. And it's getting rough,
It is. It is. All right, you can go on to the next one, Simon. Yeah, I had some. I don't know why I had the vanishing there.
But like, no, I listen. I appreciate that it's not just the data; it's for the show. I thank you for that. Presence is an important thing. But 74%. Those numbers are crazy though. 3/4 of all businesses have been successfully phished in one way or another.
Yeah.
And then go back to your users. I don't download anything. I don't click on anything.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Somebody is, and it's somebody to the point where this is an effective business model for these guys, right? I mean, that's the thing. And
I was just laughing. One of the there was somebody out of, I forget which country, it was announced today. They had a botnet with 100,000 agents on it, and FBI and I forgot who else. They were able to find him because of all things. He used a WePay or some kind of account that he was doing DDoS for hire. And on the WePay account, he put his real address. So they were able to track him down. But kills me. But and then sitting there and I'm like, okay, awesome. One for the good guys. It's that 99 bottles of beer, on the wall. Like you take one of these actors down, now 250 are left. It's like, wait, this stuff changes all the time. And it's because of these phishing attacks. During the ban with DDoSes, like I was joking internally with my friends, and I was saying, well, these DDoS attacks are happening because you guys keep clicking, not you guys, the IT people, but you get it, the end users keep clicking links and downloading files they shouldn't download and putting their credentials in bad websites. If that didn't happen, these DDoS attacks wouldn't be happening. So
that's so true. That's so true. And the ransomware, like you don't typically see something happen right away. It's not like your PC immediately dies and or the screen of the blue screen of death or the ransomware crypto locker screen comes up. It just doesn't happen like that. There's this we say gestational period or this dwell time that exists, and this isn't really news, but maybe if there's some folks that don't understand this out there or haven't seen this before, a lot of times ransomware looks for backup files. They'll look to disable the VSS writer in Windows, or they'll look for where those files are stored, where those backups are stored, and attempt to encrypt them or delete them somehow so that you have no, last line of defense. And that's one of those things that, really MSPs need to be aware of. I feel like this information anyway has been out there for a while. It's kind of been going on for a while, but occasionally I talk to people that really weren't aware of it, and they think, hey, it just takes down production systems, right away. But now
Well,
they know
that's
they
why
can.
we're doing this, because you're right. You and I, we've been doing this a very long time. This is table stakes, right? You
Yep,
know that, your logs, that's the whole point of a SIEM, have offsite log aggregation.
yep,
VSS is not backup. It's not, you have
yeah,
multiple layers. But for every, one person I talk to that knows this stuff, there's 4 or 5 others that don't. Maybe they're just getting in the industry, or they're just learning, or whatever, or they're getting out of
right,
corporate IT where they didn't have the same education and training and experiences, and they're just getting into MSP, um, where they don't realize a lot of these threat actors, they'll get into your system, and then they'll just stay dormant for a long, long time. So the point of ingress is really, it's obfuscated because you don't know when it happened. You have no time. And then little by little they start doing stuff like you said, disabling the VSS writers, and then they'll clear log entries, right? But they'll do these tiny little actions, little by little, or they'll start looking at other tools on your system, PowerShell. They'll start looking at other tools on your
yeah,
system to see where they can start pivoting to get more access. And then a lot of them sometimes will download a secondary remote access tool. So it's not, so they don't just have one; they have a belt and suspenders, because these are engineers too. They're
yep,
smart, but they do all this stuff little by little over time, so nothing raises a big red flag, which is why these things are so effective. Because while people say, okay, I'm looking for this one thing, this other thing may be happening. And I like to refer to it as magic. Magic's all about misdirection, and a
yeah,
lot of this stuff is exactly that. It's misdirection. Sean asked a question here in the chat, since you have awesome data that you're showing us, and we love data.
yeah.
He's asking, is there a place we can find estimated losses from this? I did see that, what was it? More than half of businesses that suffer a ransomware attack or breach close their doors within 6 months.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
do you have any other sources for data that
I
Sean's
do.
really invested in this about Bury the Beaver, by the way?
I can definitely grab some other data points that I have out there. I know, a lot of this stuff we share through powered services. So for MSPs who are partnered with one Kaseya brand or another, they can use Powered Services Pro, and we put a lot of statistics in there. So openly, sometimes I use that stuff, but I also, of course, I get CompTIA's information and certainly a lot of other things. So I'll get you, Sean. I will get you some information on the estimated losses overall. I have like averages, and and I don't know if you see this, Ray. Like you'll see, and I have a couple slides in here for powered services as well. But yeah, if you're not familiar with that, it's a great way to not only go to market, but like to have some resources there pre-configured that you can make your own. It makes it a lot easier to market your MSP business. I used to use it myself. Really cool
Nice.
stuff.
So you're not only the president, but also also a client kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
No, yeah, and
exactly.
CompTIA is also an excellent source. We've had
Yeah,
Carol and April on, not once but twice, and she is the queen of data.
yes,
She has every number between her and Jay McBain. Any number you could ever think of, ever, they have it
yeah,
documented somewhere.
yeah. I
So
was gonna say Forrester puts out some great data as well. Yeah, Jay of course has awesome data there. So yeah, totally something to put together. And look, we can go on to the next one here, Simon. I think I say we live in glass houses a lot of times because it's everywhere. All of the companies that you see on the screen here are or have been breached in some way or another, or felt the wrath of a ransomware attack. So these are all brands that are known, like, trusted by folks. So it's not something that's going away, and it's not something that people with even the largest cybersecurity budgets, they're not able to escape it either. So it's
and
just
I
something to
have
keep
to
in
give you
mind.
credit, because it's very, very, very easy to call out the next person.
Yeah.
Kaseya is on here. Sean will give me stuff if I call it Kaseya, which I always do. So Kaseya is on here, which is Unitrend MSP's parent company.
Yep.
And that's kind of the point, though. it's going to happen to you
Yeah.
eventually. That is, there's no version of, like, I don't want to call out anybody, but I just heard a keynote this morning that said they've never been breached, very major MSP vendor in the space, and I thought that was extremely brazen, and I don't want to say untruthful, but
Yeah.
it's the fact of the matter is everybody's going to get hit at some point. So I kudos to you for including yourselves on there, because
Yeah.
you know what I mean. It's part of life. It's not the mistakes you have that happen. It's how you handle it. So
Yeah, and I mean, it speaks volumes really to how we were able to mitigate the spread of the threat. Was because we had an incident response plan in place, because we had those mitigation efforts in place, and we knew what we were going to do. So when the decision was made, it was already made on paper. It was just a matter of, okay, when this happens, flick this switch. And nobody ever wants to shut down their platform, but it's a
no,
tough
but
thing to do.
it's a hard decision. But the fact that you guys had a pre-existing plan and that you affected the pre-existing plan, and that included a component of communication,
Yeah.
good, bad, or otherwise, Fred Vacolo did absolutely
Yeah.
communicate to everybody. You guys were doing constant communication of, what's going on and how you're working with vendor partners and how you're working with MSPs. And that constant communication is a piece. And we're not trying to focus on that. That's the
Yeah.
past. Tomorrow, no, somebody else will get attacked. But
Yeah. Exactly.
but the point is communication. The bigger point is that communication is usually a missing point of a BCDR plan.
Yeah.
Communicating to your partners. I'll use us for example. We had the big bandwidth DDoS last week that affected 40% of phone service providers across the country. Besides our regular communications, we held an open town hall, and did a live stream with our partners answering questions so they could get that information from us. And so it is always nice to see that's a major component. It's not just getting back up, but informing your partners what's going on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So, and Simon's like good at reading my mind. He can I don't even have to say anything. He's like, I already know Brian's ready
Really,
to
really
hear
good
the
at
next
this
one. So these are some of the challenges that we hear from MSPs pretty regularly. Like, this is me going to shows. Some of this is like us surveying MSPs, the partners that we work with. But what we're hearing is, several things about their backup strategy, right? So having data living in different platforms, whether it's on-prem, AWS, SaaS platforms, it's all over the place. And MSPs are using multiple solutions to back up that data. And, not only because they're using three different solutions, but because of the steps it takes to really troubleshoot and manage a good BCDR solution. MSPs are telling us how much time they spend on that, and it's an enormous amount of their tech time in a given day, and that also carries over into the margins, right? So how do you price out a service if you're finding out that your technicians are spending a third of their day managing it? Are you pricing it accordingly? That's the other challenge we're seeing. And look, I mean, just the cost alone of a BDR solution. I've heard it a million times, and we almost alluded to it, Ray, in the beginning of this, talking about those clients that just don't have the budget or kind of push back on certain solutions or services, or they're a little bit smaller and they say, hey, this is kind of cost prohibitive. I get it, and we get it. It's not always going to be a fit, but we see where BDR is definitely an expensive piece, and most MSPs say it's the most expensive piece in their stack. And I just talked about this a minute ago, that backup is vulnerable, right? Ransomware is targeting your backups first and foremost. And we've seen a massive spike in ransomware attacks since the start of the pandemic. So these challenges are definitely real, and they are. I don't think they're going anywhere. But we have a story to tell around this, and I think Simon, if we go to the next slide here, we could talk about unified business continuity and disaster recovery. And this is where we put a platform together to manage all of your clients' data, right? To back up all the data that lives in these different places. And that's whether it lives in Azure, AWS. If it lives on-prem, we still do that. We back up on-prem servers still. But also those SaaS workloads that, Microsoft 365, Google Workspace. And you still have those clients that will ultimately push back and say, don't you have something that's cheap and easy or what have you? And you have that use case for direct to cloud. And we have that too.
What I'm seeing a lot now, in talking with the MSP partners and some of the other vendors in the ecosystem, is that we all know the ones that are doing QBRs, the ones that are doing VCIO. Q4 is planning season, right? Now all we're doing is planning for 2022. We're looking at 2021, what happened the first 3 quarters, and we're saying this is going to be the budget. These are going to be the plans for 2022. And something I'm and Lifecycle Insights, a very good partner of ours, and they're all about this. But I'm going to be doing a video with Tom Lawrence on this, Lawrence Technology Systems, where we're going to be talking about vendor review and data sprawl, where the part of the conversation is going to be the better MSPs are sitting with their clients before engaging in a new platform, a new system, a new whatever, any new application, and saying, before we sign up with this, how is that going to impact the bottom line, not only in training and usability and maintenance, but also in data protection, right? Because if I add in a Salesforce cloud or I add in a Google Workspace, we're going to need to back up the data that's in there. That's going to add a cost that's beyond the per user cost of whatever SaaS application. How are we going to do that? How are we going to alert on this? And the better MSPs are having those conversations up front before coming afterward, because otherwise you're in the position that, you had no idea what was coming on, and the client says, oh yeah, we just signed up for xyz.com. I have no idea if that's a real site. Don't go there. So signed up for whatever service, and suddenly you're like, wait, but you're putting your financial data there. How are we going to secure it? How are we going to monitor and alert for it? And how are we going to back it up? And then it adds additional costs to say, oh no, it was only $50 a month per user. Okay, but the backup may be $100 per month per user, because we need to have a custom application or find an application that monitors this. Have those conversations. If you're not doing it now, please have those conversations.
Yeah, they need to happen. And Simon, you can click into the next one here. This kind of shows the flexibility that, and I didn't want to spend a ton of time, geeking out on this stuff, but I am a geek at heart, and so
I mean, who doesn't love diagrams? I'm not gonna lie. Like I was doing diagrams the other day, and I'm like, oh, this is fun. Like I'd rather do that than write a business report. Trust me. So
right, exactly. And I think the purpose here is to show that level of flexibility, especially with our hybrid cloud solution, whether you need a physical appliance or a virtual appliance, and having that flexibility to replicate to the cloud, even if it's your own cloud. I know some MSPs that work with colos that they're very close with. You can do that. You can spin up in a private data center. You could copy it out to a NAS or even tape. You can do that still. It blows my mind that people are still doing it.
I never have to look at another LTO. Like, and like, I love people who say, I get it. I get tape is still there in the enterprise space. I completely, I don't know why, but I know it's there. Right. And it's like, and so looking at it, and it's just, you see the people, oh yeah, but I know if I save it here, it's forever. Okay. But are you replacing the tapes every 5 years? Are you, and I forgot, there was somebody else that had told me they had done a long-term study of people that use tapes for backup and versus their maintenance plans for those same tapes, right? Are they moving the backups to a different media after X amount of time? Are they double checking that the data is still there on the tapes? Are they being kept in a temperature controlled, humidity controlled area? Because that stuff does affect the media. And it's just like, and the answer is no across the board. They're just like, oh, I backed it up and it's good. So
there's a lot of failure
stop
points
using tapes.
Yeah, there's a lot of failure points with tape. And like so one of them that I came across as an MSP was this veterinarian office that I was in, and I actually knew their IT guy, like a close friend of mine, great guy, but they were using tape, and come to find out, nobody was taking that drive home on any kind of regular basis. The person who was doing that had quit, And so now they didn't have their offsite copy anymore. They were all on. They were sitting there, and they were just overwriting the same
Oops.
tape. Yeah. So
It's like when you record over your wedding video. It's like
yeah. Well, that last episode of Friends was so important, you know.
right? Oh, don't get me started. My wife, she just rewatched it again, like the entire series. So that's I'm a Scrubs guy. I think Scrubs was the
Okay.
best sitcom ever to go on the, well, besides Firefly, but ever to, go past season one. So that's our constant battle in the house.
That's great. All right. So one of the things that we do with our hybrid cloud solution that's unique is that we've built it on a hardened Linux operating system. Okay, so that in and of itself has some inherent security levels to it because it's not built in Windows. So it doesn't have the same vulnerabilities that whatever Windows operating system is that you're running. So there are inherent benefits there. But what we've also done is put into the solution an adaptive analytics engine. I come very close to using the word AI because I know how loosely that's thrown around these days. But yeah, it looks for anomalies. It looks for things that are abnormal, and it says, "Hey, this doesn't make sense. Here's an alert. Go check this backup out. It could potentially be infected." And that's an early warning indicator if something's going on in your backups. And the other thing I'm going to kind of get into this in a second here is our recovery assurance feature, which is about testing the backups, right? This is about testing your plan on a regular basis, and that makes sure that you have backups that will work, that will virtualize and spin up for you. And
Are you trying to tell me that tape backup doesn't automatically check for ransomware and other threat actors on the media? These media vaults are pretty impressive. So no, but I love that. I love it's, Steve Gibson, GRC, like
yeah,
is well known for saying trust no one, right? Like,
yep,
and that includes the people inside your network could also be bad. Your employees could also be doing bad things, not on purpose. They're not bad people. They're just doing bad things by mistake.
yeah,
That includes your backup. You can't trust that your backup is good. You can't trust that it's not without its own malware.
right.
So that's pretty awesome that I know you're trying to avoid saying AI, but it's awesome that you're actively looking for these things.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the recovery assurance piece, which is what I was just talking about. This is where I think this is our huge differentiator. When people come up to me at shows and they're like, "Hey, I'm using this company over here," I won't mention them. My competitors are great; they make good products. But this is where I think we excel and just really knock the socks off the competition. We test and report back on RTO and RPO compliance. So what that means is, can your backups actually spin up? Will they work? How fast can you spin them up and have your operation up and running? And then, what's the latest recovery point that you are able to virtualize, right? So you want to make sure that the data that you backed up, last night or whatever, can actually spin up. And so that testing engine is always going on in the background. And what's cool about it is it makes the failover process very simple, because we do a lot of prep work on the front end. We do the run book with you. We know which systems need to come online first, which applications need to run. And part of this testing is making sure that those applications can operate, can execute. So a lot of other solutions kind of give you that login screen, and that makes you feel good. It hits the checkbox. You see all the green tick marks, like, all right, our backups are good, but they're not necessarily testing the applications behind that login, which is where a lot of virtualizations fail. And in the when the what hits the fan, that's not when you want a backup to fail.
And just to call it out there, because again, we don't want to assume the level of experience or knowledge in these areas. RPO, recovery point objective, right? The point in time from which you're doing the backup. Are you doing backups every 30 days or every 60 days or every 22 minutes? And then the recovery time objective. How quickly can you get back up and running?
Yep.
A lot of people say, oh yeah, I'm doing backup every 5 minutes. Okay, well, how long is it going to take you to get back up and running from scratch? And you miss that, or vice versa, right? We know we have full image recovery. Okay, well, how far back do you go? So both of those values, and those are conversations with the clients. Those aren't things that the MSP should just guess at. It is a conversation with the client of how long can you afford to be down if we really need to get back up and running from scratch? And how much data could you possibly have lost where it's acceptable? Can we go without a day's worth of changes? Or is it, I know some financial that minutes matter. And then there's some, I've dealt with medical or, other offices where like, if we lose a week, it's not the end of the world because everything is in different places. And you know what I mean? So, and you have to have these conversations for everywhere you have data. That's the other scary part. So you need to actually sit there and audit, where's my data? What matters?
Absolutely.
Lots of conversations for MSPs.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, and I'm gonna kind of speed things up a little bit here through some of these because, look, I talked about SaaS data, having a plan for that. We've incorporated spanning our backup for SaaS platforms into UniView, into our unified BCDR platform. So this is something, if you're not doing this today, if you're an MSP, this is an easy way to add revenue, to add value on top of providing those services or managing, everybody's mailboxes. And then also to provide compliance, right? There's a shared responsibility. I think there's a slide in here about it. I'll talk about it right now real quick. There's a shared responsibility model when you move to one of these platforms where if you there you go. Thanks, Simon. If you're switching from having that on-prem server that housed everything, you were responsible for all the things, right? Performance, availability, security, all that stuff was your job as an MSP on your server. But when you move to the cloud, I think the misconception is that, okay, it's all on Microsoft now. Well, that's not necessarily true. Right. You're still responsible for securing your tenant and making sure that, people haven't gained access to it, and use some of the configuration tools to move laterally inside the organization. There's a lot of things to kind of understand there when it comes to SaaS platforms, but the vendors themselves, Microsoft, Google, Salesforce, they all say that you need to use a backup. You need to have a backup copy, and you should also use two-factor authentication. Those are like the two things that it actually says in these SLAs, in the EULAs, which everybody, of course, reads.
Well, we moved from our PSA over to Salesforce October of before that, but fully moved October of last year. We had been doing about a year previous doing micro migrations. But one of the things they tell you right at onboarding is they say, we're not backing up your stuff. Period. It's on you. Good luck. And that's weird to hear from a SaaS platform, right? Like that's weird because you don't think about that. The whole point is I don't have to manage my own infrastructure. And then you still go back to, wait, I do have to make sure my data is kept safe. So, I don't think because you have SaaS that it's all covered. It's generally not.
Correct. All right, next slides. All right, so we talked about Powered Services Pro a little bit, but just to kind of quick cover it again, Powered Services Pro is a helpful marketing engine, and what we do is put out these campaign kits every single month, and we do it for 3 areas of the business: backup, compliance, and security. Doesn't matter what products you're really using, as long as you're using a Kaseya product of one kind or another, you can sign up for Powered Services Pro through your account manager. If you're not a Kaseya customer, we can help you out with that if you want to let me know. But basically, this is a great way for you to put content out there with your branding, your logo on it, that's thought leadership driven, and it's stuff that you don't have to go create. Simon, go to the next slide real quick for me. Okay, this one is where the rubber really hits the road, right? So what we do is provide for you an account manager who works alongside of you. And what they're going to do is help you set up your sales presentations. they will get onto webinars. They'll do the webinar with you, for you, however you like. That in and of itself to me is absolutely amazing and worth every penny of it. And what's cool is we'll act as a subject matter expert. And maybe you don't want me doing the webinar, but maybe somebody a little bit better. But having that expertise, somebody who's confident in what they're talking about, the technology, doing webinars is a great way to drive new business. So we're definitely invested in that as well.
I love that. All about the shared success. Yep.
Exactly. And Ray, I know you guys do an awful lot with that too, as far as helping partners grow their business. And it's just one of the things that you see. I know this slide has a lot on it, so I'm going to try to be as concise as I possibly can. But look, when we've looked at those problems I was talking about earlier that MSPs are facing, we really feel like we've got a solution that we've been able to combine and make a complete solution, so that you're not managing all these different tools to back up data because it's in a different place. We're now able to say, hey, you can manage it all from one place. And we've automated a lot of the tasks that take up precious time, remediating backup errors and stuff like that. We've got an awful lot that can help MSPs fix those problems automatically. And we go into the testing with recovery assurance to make sure that those backups can spin up and well within that RTO that you've outlined with your client, right? And then, of course,
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't get into the pricing and stuff, but we are typically priced a lot less than our competition, typically a third less. Something to keep in mind there. And we do, of course, have some fans out there. And Werner kind of hits all the high notes here in his praise of Unitrends MSP. And look, he's not the only one. I think we have another page here, Simon, with
well, you have some fans in the comments too saying Spanning's really great. And actually, because I knew Mike from a previous venture, we were one of the very, very, very early adopters of the Unitrends MSP appliances. Nice. We did a lot of beta and alpha testing and loved them. Nice. So really cool stuff.
Yeah, so we have some fans, that told us about how they like the solution. And look, I think it's something that I always say we're like the best kept secret and backup in the MSP space anyway, because a lot of MSPs will tell me now they hadn't heard of us. But more and more I'm finding folks who have tried us out before, or who know Unitrends from the enterprise space, maybe have worked with us in the past over there. So yeah. And of course, here's how you.
All right, cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. I appreciate it. Very, very educational. Lots of data. We know Sean loves the data, so that it makes him happy.
Nice.
So Brian's information is below. We have the slide deck. I think that it's available for the share. It was one of the banners there going across the bottom. To get it, contact Brian, contact Unitrends MSP. I can tell you, I often get asked, do you use this product you're talking about? Yes, we absolutely have used Unitrends MSP. Absolutely lives up to the hype. I did not know Spanning did Salesforce. Brian, you and I will have a conversation another time about that and Barry the Beaver. And there we go. We got Sean freaking loving it. But thank you so much, OIT fam, for spending time with us. Simon, why don't you tell us we got coming up next and who our winners were?
Yeah, so first I want to go over the upcoming events that we have in the next couple of weeks and tomorrow. So tomorrow we have the Tech Bar Podcast, episode 27, with Jerry of the ASCII Group, Aaron Bolton of Aaron Bolton Leadership, and Ryan Cloutier of Security Studios. So it's a triple header type of night. We're going to be in Orlando for the ASCII SMB IT Success Summit at the end of the month. And then we'll be at Channel Partners Expo in Las Vegas. So for anyone that wants to be there, come say hi to us. We're also going to be at IT Nation Connect 2021 in Orlando, Florida. And then our next Partner First on November 17th at 1 p.m. is with Aaron Bolton. It'll be on Develop Your People to Keep Your People, how to keep your staff and the new additions happy. And as for the giveaways, so the people I'm choosing is the first one will be NYC. which I believe is Joe Freer. So I'll be contacting you so you get your mouse pad. And then since Brian, you did mention that you didn't have one and that you wanted one, I'm gonna go ahead and take care of you, and I'll be sending you a mouse pad so you could have and you could improve your home setup that you talked about in the green room.
Thanks, Simon. I appreciate
I'll
that.
text Mike now about that the USB monitor. So,
Yeah.
are you going to be at ASCII or Channel Partners or any of the upcoming events?
I'm going to be at ASCII in DC.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm doing another Robbins Road show. I'm doing a Channel Pro event. So yeah, lots of
Nice.
good events coming up. I don't think I'm stopping until after Thanksgiving, so it'll be every week.
Nice. Yeah, because of all the events, Sean will be in Channel Partners. Simon's going to that. I'll be with Simon in ASCII Orlando, and then ITNC. I'll be there as well. And we're doing a live tech bar and partner first from there, so it'll be fun. So yeah, maybe we can do one of these live events from Kaseya Connect one of these days. So that'd be cool too. All right, Simon, take us out, man.